This is my 9-step process to a strict muscle up. Start with false grip ring rows. Make sure there's no space between the ring and the forearm. Make sure the elbows are straight, and then walk the feet down to do a challenging set of 12 to 15 reps for 3 sets with about 60 seconds rest between sets. For our next few steps, we'll be referencing a lot of baseball analogies. I want you to come down into a catcher squat. This is the world's worst squat. Heels are off the ground, my butt's resting on my heels, and my knees are forward. This allows me to take all of the weight off of my hands, and instead I get to use my legs. I'm gonna establish the false grip. I'm gonna lean back, and then using my legs and pulling with my arms, I'm gonna pull to the xiphoid process. The xiphoid process is where the belly meets the ribs right here. It's not the sternum line up here. If you pull to here, that'll be a little too high to transition. You want to pull lower down to the xiphoid process. Again, 3 sets of 12 to 15 reps with about 60 seconds rest between sets until you can get to our next step. Now we're going to take ourselves from home plate in this catcher squat to first base in the transition drill. I have my false grip, my knuckles are together, my elbows are straight. I pull to the xiphoid process, and then I transition my hips from forward to backwards as I come into the bottom of my dip. You know you're at the bottom of the dip when the top of the ring is touching the shoulder. That's a good position to be in. Some things to avoid here are the knuckles coming apart as you pull. That'll make you feel much heavier and a lot harder to transition through. So make sure that the knuckles stay together until the chest parts them. The next thing to watch out for is going too high into your dip. So instead of going into a low dip, we come up high, 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 and we end up halfway through our dip. The first muscle up you do, you're gonna end up way down here. So make sure you pretend that there's a strap going across the rings and that you dive under that strap as you go through. Do about 8 to 10 reps of these for 3 sets with about 60 seconds rest between sets. Now everything up to this point has been what we could call skill work. It should feel relatively easy for you to do. And now we're gonna get into some strength work. We're gonna take the skill that we just did with the transition, and we're gonna add, instead of 2 feet helping us go up, we'll just go 1 foot with the other foot out in front. So now I have to use my upper body a little bit more to pull myself through to the bottom of that transition. I'll work myself back through bringing the knuckles together and lowering back down, and I'll do 8 to 10 of these to get a little bit of strength work in on that transition drill. To increase the strength work here, to make it tougher for you, you'll go back to 2 feet, but you'll bring your heels out in front. So come down to the bottom of a catcher squat, lean back, extend the feet out in front, and then work from here as you transition through. It'll be much tougher on the pull from just below to above the rings, and you'll have to drag those heels back slightly. We can increase this all the way out, learn more and more and more, till you get to the point where your feet are on the ground, you have a slight bend on your knees, you're driving up and through and pulling your feet back behind you to really feel what it's gonna be like when you attempt a faster attempt on the high rings. We can even take this into the point where we can bring both feet up off the ground and work our way through the transition from the floor. If you can build yourself up using the transition drills as well as the single leg and double leg heel out in front until you can get to that L-sit position, you know you got a pretty good shot of making it on the high rings. While that looks impressive, it is easier to do the L-sit on the floor strict ring muscle up than it is to do with high rings, because the feet out in front of you create a lever. As the feet drop down, they pull your body through. When you're hanging from rings, your feet aren't in an L-sit position. They're hanging down below you, so you don't have as much of a lever to drop you through. This is really the last frontier before it's time to go give some shots on the high rings. And what we're looking for there is, where is the failure point? Is it on the false grip? Is it on the knuckles coming apart? Is it on the transition? Or is it on where we're gonna go next, the dip? While this isn't necessarily the next part, you wanna work on what we're gonna talk about now throughout the entirety of your muscle up journey. So this is the next part in the video, but ideally you'd work on this from the get-go to develop the strength in the dip. I'll tell you what, there's nothing sadder than watching somebody get their first half muscle up, where they have the strength and the skill to pull themselves above the rings, but not the strength to dip out at the top. First thing we want to establish is there isometric strength in the top and bottom portions. I'll have my athlete come to the top, push down into the rings, straight elbows. If they can even flash their palms out a little for me, that's called virtuosity and what we're looking for. But if they can't get there, then we'll establish this with 2 toes on the ground, maybe 1 toe on the ground, and we're just trying to build up to the point where we can get this athlete to be off the ground, feet off the ground, pushing down into those rings. From there, we're gonna establish the bottom position, which is a harder isometric contraction to hold. You have them bring their arms into their armpits or their hands into their armpits. You have them bring 1 foot off the ground, squeeze everything in tight, go Michael Jackson on the other foot, and then bring that foot off the ground. Goal is to be able to hold these for about 15 seconds each. If I can get my athlete to that, let's start working on this eccentric portion. They jump to the top, they hold for a 5 count, they slowly lower down. Notice my hips are dropping down with me, and then they put their feet back on the ground and repeat again. Building the eccentric strength will help build the concentric strength in the future. Every once in a while, give it a test. Can I go from the bottom to the top? Where am I at with that? Because that's gonna be kind of the final frontier when it comes to the strength development for getting ring muscle ups. It's a monumental day when we bring out this bad boy. This means that our athletes have really worked on the neurological adaptations it takes for the skill development, as well as the strength part of it, to be able to hold themselves at the top and the bottom of a dip, as well as the false grip. Make sure that the box is about knee height or higher for the person, about 1 foot to maybe 2 feet behind the rings, depending on how long their shin bone is. Toes go on the box. False grip is engaged. There's gonna be a slight bend of the elbows here, and that's okay. I'm gonna drive through the top of my feet, pull myself into the bottom of that dip. I'm gonna push through the top of my feet. As little as necessary to go through that dip. I wanna use as much of my arms as I can. And then I'm gonna lower back down through the eccentric range of motion. Hips and shoulders go down, retrace, lower, go back into the next one. Want to do about anywhere from 1 to 6 reps at a time of this to really develop the strength of the muscle up movement itself. Continuing on with our strength development, we have an eccentric muscle up, but with the option to help with the false grip at first. Put the box in front of the rings. The athlete will jump to the top of their dip, which will put them behind the box. They'll lower to the bottom of the dip, establish the false grip, and then if they need it, the box is here to continue to lower through those really tough ranges of the false grip, and then to reset themselves, jump back to the top, and go back through it again. Once they're able to establish the false grip, they can bring the box a little more forward, which will allow their feet to come down at the bottom throughout the entirety of the false grip. So they jump to the top, lower down, work through slow, see if they can flash the knuckles at the end with that false grip engaged. If they can go through that, they are probably ready to give it an attempt on the way up. Now, when it is time for these guys to give it an attempt on the old high rings, make sure the box is off to the side that they'll use to get to it. If they happen to fall, we don't want them to hit anything. We want them to come to the ground and you being there to spot them and catch them. They'll come off to the side, they'll establish their false grip, and then they'll lower themselves down from there. A lot of your newer athletes, or the first time they do this, will have a bent elbow, and that's okay. It's not like they didn't get a muscle up if their elbows weren't straight at the bottom. It's amazing if we could go from here to that and press out, and then eventually on the next rep, a little more extension of that elbow in the bottom is what we're going for, to the point that they don't need the box, but they can work from the bottom, through that dip, back through it, reestablish that false grip on the way back down. What you're looking for, coaches and friends of athletes attempting this, is that they maintain the false grip, number one. That doesn't slip out as they start to pull. If they do, go back to your homework. Some ring rows with the false grip. If they tend to pull their hands apart as they initiate the pull, go back to the transition drills and work on keeping those hands nice and close to the body as you transition through. Even work on maybe bringing your feet a little further out in front to help with the strength of pulling your body through. Could be a combination of either not knowing how to do that or not having the strength to do that, so work both of them. When it gets down to the dip portion, that's about going through those eccentric or concentric loading, and we want to make sure that the hips are lowering down as they do that dip, as well as the elbows going back. We want to make sure that the hips don't stay up high as they do that dip, or else they won't get to load the shoulder in the way that they'll feel in the bottom of the ring muscle up. I hope this little step-by-step helps you guys out in getting your muscle ups or helping others coach them into muscle ups. If there's any other movements that you would like to see a progression like this for that you can teach immediately in your classes to your members, just let me know by putting it in the comments below.